Okay, we have arrived to the industry engagement session where all the speakers of today, plus the representative from Solaris and Alba, will share with us the experience and discussions, and it will be moderated by Professor Holmes, that with a lot of experience of industry as well. So please, Professor Holmes, go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alejandro. I'm afraid that I'm by far the oldest participant of this summer school, and therefore I should at least add a short comment. I suppose this summer school was a nightmare because it was postponed 3 times? 2 times, just 2 times. Okay, and always starting from scratch. And then all these tiny difficulties, your CVs and people not eating chocolate or so, that means, and all the details. And my feeling is that Marta and Alexandro did an extremely great job because you are not hungry, there's always coffee there, and I would say let's thank them with a great applause because it was really a great job what they did. No, thank you very much. It was really, I followed that from time to time. A really great job. Thank you very much. Okay, now let's start. Most of the speakers were really excited about their collaboration with Synchrotron. And from my experience, I'm a little bit more skeptic. For example, I have a few questions. The first one you answered in your talks. That was previous experience with synchrotron radiation. And you talked about your experience with the quasi-in situ powder diffraction. You talked about experience, and also at least you had one example after the strategic development of lungs as a green world company. I think that. Okay, I have a few other questions. Would you be willing to go with your problems again to a national synchrotron radiation facility, or would you prefer to go to a university professor who has some experience in that area where you are doing research? Because that's a difference. Yeah?
In the end, we are doing both. Because in my last example that I showed that we are working with, this issue of the new cements, we are running a project with the university, but doing tests here.
That means the professor is not using ALBA himself.
Well, the professor is well known here in ALBA.
Yeah, in this case, the professor was the scientific director of AL, the former scientific director, so it was directly involved.
But in my opinion, the important point, if I have a problem and I have exhausted all my internal resources trying to look for a solution without succeed, then you need to look for the experts. It was say talent. Yes, in the end, people make the difference. Okay, so we look for the right person to handle the problem, and if it is really the right person, she will know what is needed.
Where to go also, yeah.
So now we have a project with Malaga University, but Malaga University is using ALBA for the project that we are developing. So in this case,
you have a combination. Both. Okay, yeah. Because my experience, specifically in Canada, was that more than 50% of all projects were carried out, industrial projects, were carried out by university professors. And in many cases, not even telling us that they were doing industrial work, because they are afraid that the synchrotron facility will steal their money also.
Yeah, we in this case, at ALBA, we have identified, because we are asking to the academic proposals how relevant are the proposals for the industry. And we know, I mean, this is real data, we have that 20% of the academic proposals are relevant for industry. So on top of the industry which is coming us in a direct way, we have also 27% of industry are coming through academic proposals, which is not negligible.
At least they are telling you that they are of relevance. What's your experience?
In our case, it's more or less the same. So when we have a problem, we try to contact to the closest and most talented or skilled university or investigation center or so on that can help us to solve the problem, because the internal resources are what we have, and then if we have to go further, we need the aid of the academia to get more results and to deepen in the knowledge of our problems. So in our case, it's a mixture of that. So we contacted Alba first through somebody that was selling some services. So it was like a distributor of Alba. But in fact, when we came here, we did the direct contact, and it works. And it was much better than through a person just in the middle. But this was for a specific problem. For others, we have our mind is try to contact directly with the people who can help us, and as it said, the proximity is very important, because you can go to the labs, they can come to our labs, interchange experience, knowledge, and ideas, and the direct contact is much better than a lot of conferences and calls that we have. So this is really how we are doing.
Yeah, same question.
Same question. Yeah, and
Academia or direct national lab?
To be cruel, I don't care. To be cruel, it's really like industry doesn't really care. So again, I think we all will touch on that briefly. It's a lot about who do we believe is going to be capable of solving our problem. So, and generally, it's either a matter of, and you mentioned people matter. It's either a matter of, okay, we knew each other, so we talked about the bacteria. So that was one. It came to mind. I have a bacteria subject. Or then you sit in front of Google and start looking at that and say, okay, this looks like a well-made web page that has nothing to do, of course, with the quality of the institute, but, oh, that's a well-made web page. They must have money for that. Oh, these papers, they have a long list of papers, and then really visiting them. So it's at the end of the day, I don't care if it's a national lab, if it's a professor, or if it's it's, okay, do I have the impression that there is the expertise, the device, the apparatus availability, and maybe some previous projects that convince me, because again, and most industries are risk averse, but chemical industry is the most risk averse. So we will, so okay, are we really, really, really sure that we are, okay, and then we will move forward. So it's less a matter of that. I believe it's difficult without the national centers, because of course things like a synchrotron, not every professor can build one in his backyard, but...
On the other side, if you ask Dr. Google, who is a specialist in concrete research, it will never tell you it is Marta from Alba, even if you have measured things, because how many papers have you published on concrete? Yeah, okay.
No, I am not an expert on concrete, of course, and I have no any publication on concrete.
But that is a problem, because what Mr. Tsumaki is telling is the truth. That means they are looking and they are finding, of course, an academic guy, a professor somewhere. That means it's difficult to find really directly a beamline or so. And therefore the question is, would you prefer, the other question is, how long does it take? How much effort have you put into telling the beamline scientist who really did the work, because someone was at the beamline putting your wet concrete samples in also. How much effort was it to educate the beamline scientist properly what to do? Hours, days, weeks?
First, of course, Dr. Google solved a lot of issues. Yeah. But we that are, let's say, long time dealing with our problems, in the end, who has been investigating in some specific topic. So most of cases, you do not need Google to approach the right person. But in our particular case, and using the example that I show, we have received proposals for investigation, and just reading the proposal, say, okay, this is exactly what I have done in my lab. The big difference here in Alba are the resources, in my opinion. So here we can do things because we have a resolution that it's impossible in the standard lab equipment. So if you have the guy in, let's say, expert on the topic, and you have the facilities, how much time? Almost nothing, because it's clear for all of us. What I'm going to say is just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But in the end, as we go looking for customers, you need to go looking for customers. And if I leave my job and I'm a sales representative of Alba, of course I know, I already know to whom I need to approach and what I need to tell in order to. So in the end, maybe but it's very personal opinion, okay? But Alba here, located in this area, which is the most typical industry around the sectors. If you have one person, at least familiar with the sector, with the basic knowledge, just to, let's say, distribute the game, I think it is key. So if you wait, somebody coming, just knocking the door, hey, no.
That would be the first, yeah.
No,
Okay.
but and that's a brilliant idea. Actually, I like that very much because it's really like looking at marketing and saying you need a product manager synchrotron in construction. You need a product manager synchrotron in agriculture. And this person is thinking all the day, okay, this is what our capabilities are. Those are the unmet needs in the market. Those are the key players. We already spoke to those. Let's talk to this guy. Let's talk to this guy next. Hey, we are capable. Also, that's what you need, really, like a marketing department for Alba with dedicated product managers where it's really a construction expert who can speak construction like a construction person. Who can
it's a marvelous idea. But if you have a marketing specialist for pharmaceutical, for cosmetics, for building materials, for polymers, who is paying all those jobs?
No, but careful.
Who is paying all those?
Remember the presentation. You need one deep expertise or two. No one is an expert of everything. You need to be. You have to have an area of focus, and then you can afford a product manager for that because that's what's going to keep your product pipeline rolling.
I like that. I'm coming back to you because you have the problems because you are those marketing guys for everything. The one of the problems is, of course, building up that expertise for everything. What you said is my suggestion is, and national labs don't like that idea, really to specialize in a few areas. That means what we said is in Canada we had mining and agriculture or so. My feeling is that Alba is moving the direction building materials plus something. Argonne National Lab is a leader in catalysis research. It means covering everything is extremely difficult. Tell us something about your problems in marketing.
Before I wanted to say that in our case, the experience was coming from our former scientific director, Miguel Angel, who, when we were thinking about every year we are organizing an industrial workshop, he proposed us to do it one related to cements and pigments to construction materials. And in that workshop is when Pera came. And we were showing our capabilities to Pera and many other attendees, and showing also the installations. And after that, he contacted us and we had meetings. And of course, the expertise of Miguel Angel was very important, both in the cases of Pera and Jordi. So in that case...
But at the end, it's people again.
Yeah, it's totally...
It always comes back to that.
I totally agree that it's the people who makes the difference. Of course, we are organizing every year a different industrial workshop, and we try to bring our experts in that topics. Maybe they are not as expert as Miguel Angel is in cements, but with our knowledge, we try to show what we can do to the different industries.
Piotr, what's your experience?
So at Solaris, we are just beginning. So we are building up these capabilities, and it would be really wonderful to have, you know, 3 marketing guys, one with materials industry, the other in the life sciences, and the other one's working with chemicals. In practice, that's me. So I'm doing all the jobs of those marketing guys, plus the legal work, plus the contracts and everything. So I would say it's one of the problems is building this capacity. So you actually need to invest money in this and invest in people, and to without knowing whether this will be successful or not. So me and Marta, it's a bit like a business enterprise. So yeah, that's how it should be treated.
You have to convince politicians to put the money in. Yeah.
But that's like real life. I mean, it's if you need to take a risk, and then it needs to be an educated risk, so you don't break the bank while doing that. So, and I thought yet again, so you have existing capabilities, and then of course keeping an eye on new trends and technologies and problems, to keep sort of like, okay, so I need to do what I'm doing now, but there's a churn on that, and it's sort of like. So, and then what am I going to be doing next? What is the next big industry? What is the next big question? And really start preparing now. Okay, maybe I'll get, maybe out of the 10 people who are, you know, doing their PhD here, maybe I'll get one on that industry, and then just like get my feet wet and see, can we also solve those problems here? Just to not only build on what we have today, but maybe, you know, construction will be revolutionized and everything will be 3D printed in the future, so there will be no more cement, and then what happens? But you're prepared for the next, you know, technology or the next big question that may come. I'm sorry, I've rambled enough.
Yes. I would like to add that in the synchrotrons, I think there is a very special case that goes into your direction, because we have what we call it an industrial liaison office. And at Alba, we are 4 people. Other synchrotrons are even bigger than that. And I'm sure Solaris will be also big in the near future. And that these people are only focused on industrial customers. I mean, it's the one single contact point for the industry. So, and also they are promoting the capabilities of industry. For instance, in this case, in ADWA, we have already made more than 1 dozen of activities in this year. Industrial workshops, visits to scientific parks, industry visits from outside to Alba. So this is quite, I would say, quite unique to the research infrastructure, and we know that industry is important, and we devote some activities. There are people that focus. In our case, we don't have this so specialized people, but we have people more focused on bio and people more focused on materials. So at least it's something. Okay.
Yes, in our specific case, when we started collaboration with Alba, we were not looking for somebody really specialist on ultramarines, because it's very difficult. What we did is, we focused in somebody who can help us in a concrete problem of characterization. So I think that all the people knows that their strengths and weaknesses that they have in the different places they work, and I think you have to go to the strengthness, or to focus in the sectors that you have around your place, around the synchrotron, and this is how to start. Then in the future, maybe you can add more lines, more specific people working in other things, but you have to focus first on what you have closer to your place. And it's like Tinder. You have to do match with some industry and start, and then continue with new ones. But the first is maybe the most difficult, but at the end you have to do the first one.
Just a question of making contact to industry. Are you reading what I call coffee table journals? That means you're not reading physical review letters. You're an engineer.
I'm chemist.
A chemist. Then you are not reading Zeitschrift für Chemie oder so. You are reading a special journal or something for building or construction industry.
Of course.
Of course. That's my feeling. I call these coffee table journals because there's no peer review, and they are
No.
you are advertising things also there. Also,
No, but
the question, yeah, you might also read at home something more scientifically.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but the question is, would it, of course, would it in the evening? That's
I also
nobody-
watch TV
Yeah,
sometimes.
but do you think it would help to write an article in one of those journals that your colleagues are reading about what can synchrotron radiation do for building materials industry? Would that help?
I mean, with all this example that I show, we have publications in
Those
cement and concrete research.
Yeah,
so
in
top-
those specialized journals.
Exactly.
Coffee can.
And
yeah,
in the
coffee.
end, not coffee, maybe it's
No, yeah,
top,
but
top
you're
magazine in the
reading them
sector.
during the coffee
If it
break,
is
hopefully.
coffee, it's part of my job.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
if when we were trying to solve this problem, all the experience were from scientific publications, review. I mean, really.
Yeah.
And with all this background and your knowledge, then is when you see that something is not really, and you know that something different needs to be done. But then I will say something, but from the, let's say, the opposite angle of vision. We make publications of this, well, because it was part also of other jobs, but most of cases, I have absolute no interest to share with others what I have discovered here or whatever. So, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, and we have agreements that what is done here doesn't matter if we succeed or not, because also we have projects with Alba trying to look for something with not the expected result. But Harry said also always you learn something. But I mean, publications sometimes is the basis to know exactly what you need. Considering that here the biggest difference is the resource.
Yeah.
So here we can do things that we cannot do in our lab, but maybe then needs to be told to industry how this can be translated into your business. And you say, okay, we need to invest in experts. Of course, you don't need an expert for each of the industry sectors. You need to identify which is the main industry around, because they will be your real customers. Okay, if I need to do something in a synchrotron, as you understand, I will come here because take the car, half an hour, I'm here.
Yeah, you're not,
I will
you're not
go.
going to the US to do it.
Of course, not to Poland. No? So yeah, but
It's a pity. That's a nice machine.
of course, maybe as good as here. But anyway, if you know that the center is prepared to attend the industry, the most typical industry around, I think it is a real interesting starting point. Okay, so we invest in doing something here that sometimes there is, or we do not get the expected result. But same works for you.
Happens.
If you look for more industry involvement in your activities, you need to go for them. And the best way to go for them is to have somebody that talks the same language than your potential customer. Because if not, what happens? In the last, it was a similar event, I don't know, 2 years ago, or and we were again. Yeah, but which is the conclusion?
Yeah.
One is that people that came is happy and come back, but always same people.
Yeah.
Is it good?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Okay, so if here we are discussing what the synchrotrons can do to, let's say, be attractive for industry, I think that the key point is you have to talk same language. You have to understand their problems, and you don't need to wait they came to you telling their problems. You have to go to them and say, hey, I know you have your problem, and maybe here we can help you for the solution. But that's my opinion.
And thank you for that, because that sort of like sparked a thought. Now, it's probably much too granular now, and I'm not too much into problem solving, but I think one way to transport to industry how valuable such a device is really to say, okay, you know this from the lab, and in the lab, in your lab, in the industry, you work with this and achieve this resolution, so if you come to us, this is what you can expect. Really making very easy that mental transfer from I'm stuck because I can't see in my machine. Oh, but there's a machine that can solve that problem. So, you know.
Yeah, you have the machine.
I know.
Assume this.
Give it to the people that are suffering from industry. No, what is your experience? Where do you see the problems in contacting industry and convincing them at the end to make at least a test?
Well,
Where do you see the problem?
Yeah, no, the initial problem, once it's to get them to come here, because it's difficult to go to all the companies. I mean, so what we do is we organize these seminars, these webinars, presentially or online. And yeah, to make them to think that we can solve solutions to them. So sometimes it's difficult to get them to register and to attend our sessions. And then also it's what you were saying, of course, we don't have expertise in all the fields. So sometimes we don't know what they are, the problems they have, what solutions do they need. So we are presenting what are our capabilities, and expect our capabilities to match with their problems, so we can find a point to interact. But yeah, I mean, to me, these are the two main things.
But your experience is that these dedicated workshops, they work. Most of your customers are coming via those workshops.
Yeah. Pere, it's an example that it works, and many other companies have come.
In these workshops also, which is very important, is we do what we have done here, is bring users, industrial users that have been already used our synchrotron, and show to the rest of the participants in this workshop that they are getting unique information. And of course, we give them a nice lunch. This is very important.
I know. Piotr, what's your experience?
So I'm always wondering whether because let's face it, synchrotrons will have like around up to 5% of their budget from industrial activities, I would say, more or less.
That's pretty good already, 5%.
Yeah. So there are basically two options. So either there is not that much demand for synchrotrons among industry, or we are just not good enough at attracting industry. And I always wonder which one is true, actually, because for many cases you don't really need a synchrotron. But so we are a kind of a niche within the research community, to be fair, to be absolutely fair. There are some applications where it's crucial. For example, sulfur oxidation states, and it's really difficult to do without the synchrotron. But in many cases, people come to synchrotrons because there are many different techniques, so they can choose from those techniques, not necessarily because of the properties of synchrotron radiation, from my experience.
That's an interesting perspective, because my feeling is that the bigger companies, you have a powder diffraction machine, but you don't have a tomography machine. Okay, yeah. Therefore, but if you are interested in really what is the situation around your steel in your concrete, you can look with a tomography machine inside also. Therefore, because my feeling is that industry is using the internal equipment as long as they can. And it's been the bigger companies. Your company is also quite big, but for example, Lanxess, they have everything you can think of, I suppose. You have diffraction, you have infrared, you have photoelectron spectroscopy. That means they have a lot of things that they can do also. But they are coming to the point when they say it's not possible. But then making the decision to go to a synchrotron is difficult. Yeah.
But do you think, you personally, that there is, for example, enough demand to keep a synchrotron running just from industry?
No. That is what scientists are promising politicians for the last 50 years, that synchrotrons are paid by industry. That's not true. There's no politician. We can talk about that.
For some reason, I have to think during this discussion a little bit of when the first computers were there, and people are saying there will never be more demand in the world than for 3 computers, and it was Bill Gates or someone. So, and actually, I don't know, but I think no one has ever done a market sizing which is a usual exercise in marketing, to look at, okay, so what is the potential? And I think we had a good avenue in the discussion here, saying what exists in kind of like lab-sized stuff in industry, and where does the synchrotron deliver the next step, kind of like the 10-time improvement or the 20-time compared to what is existing, and really going into that and thinking, okay, so that means, I don't know, there are 100,000 X-ray diffractometers okay, and probably 1% of those are going to want to go one step further in the resolution. So that's maybe an application space. And maybe going systematically to those, and sort of like, because you can answer your own question at the end. You guys are experts in what can you do with a synchrotron? And sort of like saying, okay, so what do we expect? Is it going to be 10 million? Is it going to be 100 million size the market? And then boiling it back down to, okay, so what can I do from it? So will there be space for 1 or 100 synchrotrons? I don't know, but I think that's an exciting, sort of like back of the envelope calculation to do.
Yeah, I fully agree, and I feel that's what's been kind of missing in the synchrotron community, that there was never really a proper estimate of what's the market for industrial services for synchrotrons. But that's also because of political reasons. Right?
Yeah, I mentioned that already. The most synchrotrons are not really publishing their industrial commitment. The only real marketing thing that I know, there are two actually. One is the old Dasbury machine. They have summarized what Dasbury did for the UK economy. It's a book like this. And they, of course, they say we improved some medication and we helped company to make better chocolate, for example, and things like this. And there is, Berkeley did something like an estimate about the economic impact or so. But it's pretty difficult. In principle, Piotr, you are right. The most scientists working at a synchrotron, they know that the time resolution for in situ measurements is a factor of 100 better than what you might be able to do in a lab. The spatial resolution is a factor of 1,000 better than you can do with conventional things. The question is that sufficient for your companies in Poland to come to a synchrotron if I say my spatial resolution is a factor of 1,000 better? I'm not really sure about that.
Yeah,
okay.
I agree.
Yeah, all right. I have a few questions. You are so excited about synchrotron radiation, at least these guys, that you would, if your problems, you can't solve it at home, you would come back to a synchrotron. No doubt about
Correct.
it. Correct.
If I could solve my problem at home,
Yeah.
it's not needed to come to a synchrotron.
Yeah,
but I think for our internal resources, it's our box,
Yeah.
and synchrotron is out of the box.
Yeah.
It's something that is additional, and I agree that maybe it's not all the companies or all the industry have problems, but of course there are problems that couldn't be solved in at home. And this is the niche market for synchrotron. You have to go to this, and I think this kind of sessions, that sharing experiences with somebody that has used synchrotron and is happy to use it, and probably if we have a new problem, we come back again. This is really good it's the best way to publish the.
Why is Lanxess not using synchrotron radiation?
Because we haven't brought it into a problem needing one
You have
yet.
no problems, yeah?
We have a ton of problems, but they have to do with gas prices and stuff. No, but that's a different story.
Yeah.
No, but,
Yeah.
and again, I was mentioning that the stuff we're doing right now is mostly focused on the short-term tweaks and adjustations of the existing portfolio. A lot of problems we also solve by just buying the company who makes the better product, so that's also another approach. Then we don't need so much
You are too big to use a synchrotron, yeah?
time investment. No, but I think we will come to that point. We will not be able to avoid using a synchrotron anymore once we come to this whole thing where our processes have to be turned around. We will need a ton of new catalysts. Yeah.
Okay. No, because the interesting thing is also that the speakers from industry are also bigger companies. It means you have more than 250 people working. Okay, you're a big company. Same, of course. You are also a big company.
13,000.
Because we talked about that the politicians, they would ask, where are these small and medium-sized companies here? They are not here because that's sometimes a problem because they don't have the scientists.
But we also have, I mean,
Smaller
they
ones,
are the big companies are the ones that are using a lot of beam time, but we have a lot of small and medium companies using small amounts of beam time, of course, to solve maybe smaller problems. Maybe they cannot afford to have a project as by brands or master builders.
Yeah, when we started the collaboration with Alba, we were not Vibrance Technologies. We were Nubiola, a Spanish company. We were not so big, and we started the collaboration. Of course, then some sharks came and they ate us, and now we are part of a big company. But when we started, we weren't. So I think this is not done with the
means
problem.
Spanish? How many people working there, roughly?
Roughly less than 1,000. I think
yeah.
600, 600,
For
700.
a small
but
company,
in-
1,000 is a lot. Okay.
No, but I think that the approach is could be different because things that can be done here normally are more referred to, I would say, mid-long-term investigation projects. The short-term, in the end, I would say differently. The companies prepare themselves more focused on the short mid-term, but you do not put resources normally thinking in the very long term. The investigations that we are doing here are not short-term focus. So normally only bigger companies can really afford and spend for something that you know that the return will be 5, 7 years later. A small company cannot afford this.
20,
so maybe
20 years in the
or
future.
whatever, doesn't matter. But maybe
Yeah.
your target, per definition, are the companies that can afford these projects at longer term, financially speaking, I mean, okay? But definitely the companies prepare themselves to, let's say, approach the challenges at short mid-terms. When we did this project, we were BASF, plenty of resources, but we do not have a synchrotron in BASF, okay? And all our equipment had no enough resolution to solve one problem that was clearly seen, that there was something not matching, okay? So there is no interest for any company to spend a lot of money for something that will be just very punctually. When you say synchrotron could be something related to niche market, maybe yes. Maybe yes. But a collection of, it is my niche. My niche.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
if you collect all the niche opportunities, you can survive with this, I promise.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
this needs to be promoted.
Yeah, the people have to know that we can solve niche
Correct.
markets. Yeah. That connecting. Okay.
But
yeah.
I mean, we have many small and medium enterprises, and also there is this European project that it's financing the access to synchrotrons, so they can have a small project of few hours of beam time for free, and this is to show them that we can also solve solutions to solve
Smaller ones.
the problems to the
Different
small
thing, yeah,
companies.
The question to first.
Just one comment. Sorry.
Yeah,
So
of course.
I think I've been a bit provocative with these market questions and whether there's really demand. But I think it's like in the end, it's important to remember that we are not a company. We are not trying to make profit. So, for example, like from the point of view of a company, it doesn't make sense to have many small SMEs using like 5 hours of beam time, because the resources you have to put in to like do everything with them are much larger than profits. It makes more sense to work with large companies, but there are other goals here, except for pure financial goals. Yeah.
So yes, academia has the responsibility to advance science and to teach students and all that stuff. On the other hand, I was thinking about the niche market comment, and Lanxess loves niche markets. We concentrate only on niche markets because there you can make better margins. So you're solving a very difficult problem for a very special group of people, and it's better than saying I'm solving an easy problem for a lot of people. I'm solving a difficult problem for and then you can sort of like make sure that you cross subvention enough that you can get new for free, and you can get those who are really getting a lot of value, that they understand the value they're getting from you. So I think it sounds like increasing a little bit the marketing efforts on the side of academia might be advantageous. Again, I'm coming after having seen both sides of the coin.
We have to be careful because neither Alba nor Solaris is academia. They are part of a university, but the people working there are not classical, arrogant professors also that believe they can solve the world. We know how that works. Therefore, that's the professors that are doing marketing for their groups are very rare. Because they say, if I'm publishing in high impact journals, I will win the Nobel Prize or something like this. That's sufficient also. Therefore, these national labs are in a different situation also sometimes between. Okay, the fundamental question is, you are so excited, that's difficult, because I know a lot of people that are complaining about synchronization. They're too slow. The reports are not detailed enough. They are much too expensive. Also, how would you like to improve your collaboration, or is everything perfect?
It's perfect enough. At least what can I... No, but definitely, I think here we had really interesting discussions, not only before testing, but once the results were ready, we met here, we sit in the same table, we show the results, we discuss, we also hear the interpretation of the experts, so I cannot say... I cannot support... no, it's enough.
Yeah, okay.
We are looking for somebody to help to solve our challenges. So if it is solved, it's perfect. If it is not solved, but you understand perfectly why this cannot be solved, it could be also close to perfect.
Yeah.
Or very honestly, I have no arguments to say that this could be improved. No, it's...
It means also the timing. That I don't know how long did it take to get your problem solved, the first one.
You know
what we did? Intercalation thing. How long did it take?
No, it was quite, I mean, fast in terms of testing.
Yeah.
Okay, then of course that's...
Yeah.
But then also you need to, when we plan, we agree that we will come and we will prepare the samples.
Okay, yeah.
So we went to the lab, we were working in the lab, okay, here is the capillary, where I need to put that. And then the experts of Alba did their jobs. But in the end, you need to look for the right, because maybe, sorry, just to, what takes time, in this case to Alba, is to do something that they are not used to. If we need to prepare the paste and so on, in order to do one analysis, okay, maybe you will take longer in doing all these things that we can do in... So it's just to find a logical agreement, and we agreed to proceed like this, and definitely I have no complaints in timing, but because we organize accordingly.
And you also know what powder diffraction can deliver. That's a technique that you are familiar with.
Yes.
Therefore, it's easy. You could prepare the sample, you know what the requirements are. What was in your case? Because X-ray absorption is not what you learned at the university. Because you rely more on the interpretation also of the beamline scientist. It means looking...
We do.
Yeah?
We do.
Okay.
Yes. First about the timing, I remember my feeling is that we agreed on the timing. So we agreed on a schedule, and the Alba accomplished the schedule that we agreed at the beginning. So they say we need this time to do the experiment, and the delivery of the results will be at those dates, and then we can have an open discussion about the results and a final report on that. So it is very important for the industry, and I think for all the people, to know the right schedule and to agree the right schedule, because if you are waiting results 1 month later and you have 1 year later, of course I will not be very happy like now. But and regarding to to the new experiments. Of course, I didn't have any idea about the absorption, but well, I remember I read about it. So they gave me some documentation. I could read some papers on this, and it seems there were other groups, other people worked with this technique with materials similar to our ultramarine. So let's go, let's try. Of course, it's something that it's not done. It's something that it's new. Results can be okay or not okay, but this is a risk. It's about risk. If you don't take the risk, you don't have the success.
It also happens at home.
Yes, of course.
We start doing things that in the end, they do
Okay.
not go as we expect.
Piotr is the most skeptical one. What would you expect from industry? Because he is still traveling through Poland and really visiting companies. Because I was astonished that seminar work for industry didn't work in Germany, not properly. We tried. But Bayer said, oh no, there's a BASF also sitting there, we don't like that interaction. That means there was that competition, having these big companies sitting together in a seminar. They said, it's come to us and give us a seminar talk. That means going to them. That was the good old days when there were 300 people at the Bayer Central Research Unit that now doesn't exist also. What would you, from your experience, what would you expect from industry to make your life easier and more successful?
So the perfect thing that could happen but will not happen would be a central database of industry problems on the production lines and everything.
Or the competitors would read that. That
No,
makes
actually,
no sense.
this is an idea for
Yeah.
a marketplace for this kind of techniques. But this is not likely happening because industries don't really like admitting that they have problems, especially to their competitors.
Yeah, you can answer.
No, that's a brilliant idea, and we do. I mean, not all the time, but we also do these things where we put challenges, and then we invite universities to come in and say, "Oh, well, this is a problem we have. Do you have any ideas on circularity, on decarbonization, all that stuff?" So I like the idea a lot to say, let's put out a challenge page out there. This is my synchrotron. These are the 10 things it does better than your lab equipment. What are your problems? I like that idea a lot.
Yep. So we are thinking about this and might implement it. And yeah, that's one of the ideas. Because the problem with industry workshops or going to companies is that you don't really have the scale because, the success rate is 1%, something like this, the total success rate. So you need to do a lot of work in order to get a single customer. So yeah, the idea would be to increase this number of initial contacts somehow. For example, via this web page of challenge system.
But maybe when you go to a company offering the capabilities and the service of synchrotron, maybe at this point of time there is nothing that really justifies this. But this information is kept by the company, and maybe there will be one day that you will say, okay, maybe what it was told at this time, it's part of the possible solution of my problem. But I think first people need to know that you are existing. If not, I promise that nothing will happen.
Marta, what would you like for industry? Because my complaint is that when I get a sample from industry, they are telling me only half the truth. That means I get a sample and they say that's a catalyst that doesn't work. And of course, if I'm lucky, they are saying it's a platinum cobalt catalyst or something like this. But the details about what is the support, is it coated with something? What is the detailed chemical process where the catalyst is dying? And is there some promoter somewhere also? It means in some cases I have to start really from scratch. The case even with the ultramarine blue, I had problems from archaeology. I think it was not really to get really some information about what is the base material that's really disturbing that color also. Where is the chemical interaction taking place also? It means they gave me a white sample, a blue sample, and they said, look what the differences are. That is sometimes really challenging because it takes time. And when I'm telling them each hour is roughly $800 or euros or so, then they are smiling also and say, oh, my feeling is that if you have signed your non-disclosure contract or so, there should be some more detailed information, because it would save a lot of time for synchrotron radiation. And also, in your case, if you are really interested in the location where your sulfur is sitting, some reasonable reference compounds for measuring, because you have sulfur in different places, would be required. The question is, where are they coming from? Sometimes you have the chemical capability to synthesize those things, but it's time consuming. And the question is, industry is sometimes not willing to provide those suitable reference compounds. It means I would complain about industry in many cases or so, because we put significantly more effort in. And when I'm writing the invoice at the end, I'm ignoring a lot of those things. That means because for political reason I'm writing 5 hours, and then it might be 5,000 euros or so. In principle, I spend already 15,000 euros. and therefore, that would be my complaint. Do you have complaints like this?
No, regarding the information, I mean, yeah, sometimes it's when we are having the discussion after the reporting, they said, yeah, this is related with that other thing that they did not mention, but now it comes, so they offer, but usually they are providing the information we need to provide the service. Sometimes they are not providing us standards because they don't have it, they just have the sample, so we have to find standards somewhere else to have the measurement of the standards. And yeah, my main complaint, as I said before, or not a complaint, it's that I guess companies think that the synchrotron, we are making rockets or we are doing, rocket science, so they think that this is not for them. So it's a great barrier to get them to get to us and to think that we can solve problems. But in many cases, once they use us, they repeatedly are coming, we have this problem and we cannot solve it, our company, so what can you do for us? Sometimes we cannot also help on that, but it's nice to see that now every time they have something that they cannot solve on their own company, they are sending an email and asking if we can do something about that. So
it means you are happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of a typical niche, luxurious quasi-market. So the success rate is low, but once you get a customer, it's almost always a recurring customer. So. Yeah.
Okay. Because you are so happy, that means any improvements, what you can think of, you said no. Perfect. Lang says, you are working in 10 years for synchronization, then we talk about that again. Yeah. To the audience, any questions to those guys sitting here? Don't be shy. It costs the same money. Yeah? No one has any questions? Yeah? Okay.
I had an impression that the main reason that you pointed, the main reason why there is not so much collaboration between industry and synchrotron facility is the difference in languages, that the scientists speak different languages and the industry speak different. I'm not really convinced that it is true, that this is a main reason. When you create a win-win situation, the people will always come to the common language. They go to beer or something and they will have common language when there is a win-win situation. And I think we don't create this win-win situation. For the perspective of industry, I think the main, one of the main factors is price for the measurements. How we have to establish price if we know already that synchrotron is not directed into making profit. how the price it could be established to be competitive with, for example, their own labs. And for the perspective of synchrotron, what is the motivation to perform industry measurements when the money industry paid doesn't go, for example, for this beamline directly which perform measurements? It goes somewhere to the organization, to common bag. So how do you see this?
So that's at least 3 questions.
Yeah.
I
Of
think.
course, yeah.
Yeah.
So one thing one component is, again, and I'm coming back to my old marketing hat. One was the pricing discussion, and it's how do you price something that is actually quite expensive in such a way that the price is not a barrier to adoption, but that you kind of like ease the customer into the thing. And you can think about having a project price at the beginning and a cooperation price later on. And the first thing is like, okay, you do the first test, and it's very, very cheap. You need to but then you need a lot of data. You need to look back at the past years so that you know more or less what your success rate is, because then you know how low you can set that price, that you are sure you can cover that with later projects. That's one thing. So just like inviting people in with a project price. I used to do that I had specialty elastomer, and customers go like, oh, this is very expensive. Oh, no, project price, same price as your current product. And then they would see it and say, oh, this is awesome. And they would say like, it's 5 times more expensive. Yeah, but it's good. Okay, yeah, thank you. So working, that's one approach. Then there was another question. I'm trying to remember it. It was the language. I think the language thing is difficult because you mentioned the win-win situation, and I need to know there is a win-win situation for us to start adapting our languages and coming together. So I don't know that yet because I don't know that a synchrotron can help so that's a second part of the communication part where really you cannot over communicate. You really need to push that message out there. A synchrotron will enhance your workbench on this analytics by a factor of 10, 100, 1,000, whatever. So that's the second thing. But then I think, oh, that sounds interesting. And then we can sit down together. And often enough in industry, you will find chemists and physicists and engineers, and then you can you will find the right language properly at the right time, but you really first need to open the door so people think, okay, can we talk about, is this even a win? Is this even a proposition? I don't even know that it's a proposition, let alone a win-win proposition. So we need to be aware of that before we as industry can come to you and start looking on that. Okay, can we win together? And then there was a third question, but I think the third question direct
profit for the beamline.
The beam. Now that's an organizatory thing. I mean, that's Alejandro needs to make sure that the beamline gets the money. Come on.
I can answer that also. First of all, there is some political pressure. That means the national facilities, they are politicians and they are spending a lot of money. I don't know what the operational budget for ALBA is. 15 million or so?
25.
25, okay. What they are expecting is a full cost calculation. That's very easy. 25 million divided by the hours, divided by the beamlines, depreciation of the investment costs, and you get really a number per beamline per hour. That's
now it's around 430 euros per hour. But yeah, the main problem usually it's not the money. Sometimes yes, because they need a lot of hours. So the project is very expensive. Yeah. But now we have this project where Beamtime is for free for the small and medium companies. So it's for free. And we are organizing webinars and seminars, and we are not getting companies here like analyze this for me. It's not that easy for them to come here, even if it's for free. I mean, and they don't have to feel just a proposal that it's quite simple, just a page. So. Yeah, maybe what fails is the language. I think language is very, very important because if they come here and we explain things and they don't understand us, they will go home thinking this is useless. So I think that communication and communicating in easier way and a way that almost everybody can understand why are you useful, it is very important. I think we have to put effort on that, on getting to get to people to know us.
That's a language. The last.
No, I'm not saying the main, but it's the first. Because if I'm not able to understand the win-win, nothing will happen after that. And then you ask about the price, or you say about the price. If I have a problem, and if I solve this problem, I have access to a 10 million euro market potential. How much it costs? 1,000, 2,000, 10,000, 100,000. It's cheap. But
Your boss will not spend 100,000 euros for an analysis of your concrete.
I know.
I'm absolutely
I
convinced.
promise that if I
Yeah?
deliver a plan,
Okay,
then I will
let's
bring
meet-
10
let's
million
meet- let's
on the
meet-
table.
let's
I
meet
promise
outside.
he will sign.
Let's
but
meet
it's
outside.
just a metaphorical. The company that approach you knows the opportunity behind.
yeah.
So nobody will spend time for a small opportunity. So when we came here, it is assumed that there is something very attractive behind. So in the end, which is the price? It depends on the opportunity. Nobody will come here to do a stupid test that contributes in nothing. Even that costs 100 euros. It is a waste of time. It is much expensive that your invoice, I promise. Our time in our company is not for free. But so first of all, we need to understand how you can benefit us. And you already assume the win-win, but no, do not underestimate this. Because so often we, and I use this metaphoric, we do not talk the same language because, and now it's just my personal opinion, but my feeling is that here the view is very scientist view. I remember first time that I came here and I say to Miguel Angel, please stop. I'm working in a company with a open aim, declared aim to make money. I'm not here to make science.
No, I know, yeah.
Okay? And then we start getting understanding. That's it.
Let me ask the last question. The beamline scientists have some advantages. Some facilities are giving some of that money as consumables back to the beamline where the measurements have been done. And in some cases, even the beamline scientist has some advantages. He can do more traveling to conferences or so. That means to increase the motivation, there are ways to do it. But it's not possible to give the complete money to a beamline. But there are ways to acknowledge the contribution of a beamline and a beamline scientist. And facilities are doing that.
Yeah, in ADVA, 40% of the income goes to that particular beamline. And not only they can buy consumables at ALBA here. No, they can spend this money not only in consumables, equipment, but also in equipment, even in hire more people. That so it's very flexible, and we try to motivate as much as possible to the beamline scientists because we know that this is one key point for providing good services to the industry. It's a key point, persons.
And a quick comment: we are working on a similar system at Solaris. So
reward for beamlines. Okay.
I'm going to moderate my previous answer because language might be an issue. Who decides on these projects? And in big chemical companies, sometimes it's not the chemist or the physicist or the engineer who does that. Sometimes it's the BU head, or it's somebody who has no inkling what science is. So I think being able to speak that language, so like, okay, this is the differentiator, this is a unique selling proposition that you might be getting from this. So really being able to go into that. And what I remembered when we were having this discussion is 10 years ago, I was having a discussion with Jiao Tonggu University in China. And the students there, they were offering us for PhD cooperation, and they spoke also the marketing language. They also knew what a market segment is. They also knew what a differentiating offering is. So and you don't need to have the PhD in marketing for that, but just having an idea of what drives a company. They want to make money, okay. And how do they make money? They make money by solving other people's big problems. Well, so, okay, can I address that? Can I excite them about what I'm offering and not talk to them, oh, but you know, the third electron, I measured it there and it's totally exciting because the orbital is different than no, it's, you know, you need to...
The Hamiltonian is very nice, I think.
Awesome Hamiltonian. Look at that formula.
Is very nice.
So yeah, the language thing is an important thing. Thank you.
Of course, I admit that language is could be a problem, but I think this problem could be solved quickly. As Perez said, you talked and you talked to chef of the synchrotron, what do you want? And he gives you what you want. Yes?
What I need.
What you need.
And that's an important, that's an incredible...
simple conversation, and one day maybe, and you came to the common language, yeah? Or not, I don't know.
But it is an incredibly important differentiation to say what I want or what I need, because I may come to the national laboratory and say, I want this, but you have a technical expertise and you tell me, well, you know what? You're trying to find this and this and this. You know, what you need is actually this. And then I need to understand that. And I say, oh, okay, you're right. It's not what I wanted. I want this, what I need, actually. So this having this dialogue is important. It can take one day or it can take a year.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, I talked too much.
I was wondering, because all of you guys, you kind of separated always a little bit the aims of, on the one side, science, and on the other side, like business. And I was wondering, isn't it possible to have both of both worlds? You know, like, because you can collaborate. For example, if a synchrotron collaborates with your company, you can do research and make money out of it at the same time, can't you?
Of course, in the end, research is one tool for the companies to make money. It's like this. In my particular case, I'm responsible for the technical and the marketing part. So we are organized in a way that my responsibility is to identify what is needed, to design the tool to solve what is needed, and to introduce it, to the market. Then it's sales department job. But we are organized like this. So in my responsibility, there is both, let's say, marketing vision and more scientific vision. But the companies are created to make money. So what's above, I think it's clear for us. Okay? Science is a resource to support our activities, and private companies are aimed to make money. No, there is absolute no interest for any company to generate knowledge. If it is not used to make money. It's as simple as this. But for this reason, and I will come back to the beginning, if there is some experts, when we say experts, I was not really referring to maybe to more on the scientific side. I was more focused on the marketing. Because if I know the problems of a specific industry, and I know that here there are facilities that can help, and sometimes the first thing is that we industry do not know what can be done. So first I need to do what can be done here that I cannot do. And then the relations are rapidly made by each of us. Okay, when I came here, and I was here sitting with many other people, and I don't know who was telling something, I say, hey, maybe this can be. And then we start talking, and all these things, we get understanding, but definitely the things started to run when we align, okay, and we start talking same language. But the aim, ultimate aim for the companies, it's always the same. We did a very scientific job, high level, I have to say, but to transform this into a product that nobody has.
Of course, yeah.
Then it's just a return of investment.
And also in the industrial workshop, we involve also beamline scientists, and they present their results. And probably this is one, how did you come up with the link between synchrotron and your needs? Because the beamlines also, they are talking about what can be done in the synchrotron. Okay.
No, I just wanted to say the same as Miguel Angel, that on the other side we have scientists that, as Miguel Angel knew about cements, or we have many other scientists that knows about batteries or any other type of materials, and then when company approaches, they have this knowledge, they speak the same language, they know about cathodes and electrodes and all that stuff, so they can speak, so they can make this link together and try to
Also,
I want to say that and this is why we are here, because as a positive case study, when we have a good feedback about our experience in Alba, so it's very good to come and to share with other industries and with our partners. So this is very important, to have a good relationship and strengthen the relations with the industries, with positive case studies, because it will help very much to increase the business.
Yep.
Okay, thanks a lot for the very interesting talks to the industrial people. Just one short question. Speaking of visibility, we now learned that synchrotrons are being visible to the industry via the web pages, the industry liaison officers also. But let's say in a bigger company, you have somebody sitting in the analytical department deep down in the basement, and that guy might be interested in, let's say, spectroscopy, or he might say, yeah, synchrotron, that's cool, yeah? How are those people visible? Is there a way for people like us to directly connect?
To that people downstairs.
No, but
No.
It's, I don't know if it is a matter of people. Are you in the lab preparing samples? No, me neither.
Okay.
Me neither. And we are here. I mean, it's later on, you will talk to the guys, appropriate guys for the, let's say, Me Too discussion. But it was, I think, by Harry, who will approve the business plan.
Yeah.
It's not a lab technician, I promise. Okay. But maybe when you organize these workshops for the industry, also you need to look for the right people. If you make a, let's say, huge technical program, probably the people that will come is not the people that will generate business for you. But if you try to, again, it's talking language, that if you focus this more on a more, I would use the word relaxed, okay? Well, not pure science, then probably here will come people that really can, but it does not exclude the other way around, because here can be one lab technician and they came to us and say, hey, I have seen this and probably this will help for this bloody issue that we have on the table and we never are able to solve. In the end, also it's communication in the companies, but I promise, who will sign the order is not a lab technician.
But with your company, sure. I would like to collaborate if you are so generous with your offers also.
Well,
okay.
Sometimes we reject proposals also.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about the lab technician, but maybe the head of the analytics department.
No,
somebody who's...
It was a metaphorical way to say it, okay? You understand. Yeah. But definitely here there is this, I mean, the people that came here doing the test was not the same people that was in the discussion. Yeah. Okay? Sure.
I want to add that it depends on the target. If your target is the top management, you have to do something more focused on business and the advantages of using synchrotron radiation and the money that we will earn by using these techniques. If you go to an R&D manager or an analytical manager, maybe you can talk a little bit about science, but the percentage of success, if you convince this guy, is lower than if you convince the top management, because who signs.
If you organize a workshop and the title of the workshop is How Synchrotron Can Make Your Company More Profitable, then will come the right people.
Good. Thank you. Very good idea.
That's a good point. No, and maybe your question has also that aspect, because if I'm thinking of my company, we have 10, 11 business units, and each one of them has their own research and development department. So maybe your question also means, if Department A knows about the synchrotron and already is working with you or not, what happens with all the other 9? How do they, and generally, it's, let's say, up to 3 years ago, within my company, it would have been very difficult because there was no connection between the different research and development departments. They had their research and development, analytics, and all that, but it was siloed BU per BU. And now, recently, internally, we have an innovation community, so they all come together and they say, oh, yeah, I can measure that there, or I can measure that, and then maybe that, but that's homework that the company needs to do, making sure that all the, sort of like the research community is aware of what tools are available. I think that's where you have it's always a pendulum. It needs to swing both ways for that to be a successful symbiotic relationship. Okay.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, last orders, last questions. Any question left before the summary is coming? Okay, no further question. Then I say thank you. When are we meeting for the contract? Okay, no, thank you very much for the no, thank you very much for the people here. Thank you for the organizers, and let's move on to the summary. Okay, thank you.